What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the latest episode of WWE Chronicle on Jeff Hardy. Now, this is the first episode they've done of Chronicle, I want to say in about a month or two, since the Shayna Baszler one. It must have been 2 months ago. Yeah, it was definitely 2 months ago, because they had focused on Shayna from like the Rumble up until Money in the Bank. And that was like a 4-month-long episode. I forgot how long it was, maybe close to an hour, half an hour, I don't remember. The bad part about that episode in retrospect, although it was good, was that in retrospect, it means absolutely nothing. Because Shayna, I don't think, has been on TV since then. She said at the end of the episode, like, oh, I have to win Money in the Bank, otherwise, like, there's going to be a lot of destruction, blah, blah, blah. She was on TV maybe once or twice after the pay-per-view, and then other than that, we have not seen her since. Because reportedly, Vince has lost all interest in pushing Shayna Baszler on the main roster. So I was going to say no surprise there, but they were kind of featuring her pretty prominently early on, even though she is a former very successful star from NXT, and that doesn't always bode well on the main roster. If you do well in NXT, doesn't always bode well for your chances on Raw or SmackDown. But unfortunately, she has been, persona non grata since. We have not seen her since. So hopefully Jeff Hardy has better luck coming off of Chronicle. I mean, Drew McIntyre did. Before the Shayna episode, we had McIntyre, and the McIntyre episode was great. And McIntyre went on to win the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. So it's not like that the episode or the shows are cursed by any means. But this episode on Jeff Hardy takes place from May 29th through July 10th, which is actually just Friday on SmackDown. I don't know when they taped that SmackDown. I don't know if it was last week, earlier this week. It must have been at some other point. It definitely wasn't live, I don't think. Just because they got a real quick turnaround time on the footage from SmackDown, the Miz TV segment that he was involved in. This doesn't really span too long. I thought it might span back to his in-ring return in March. They talk all about his issues from last year and his run-ins with the law and whatnot, but it only spans about 5 to 6 weeks. But he does say from the very get-go that he felt like he, let his family down when he was let out of jail back on October 3rd, 2019. His family stacked up a bunch of chairs, I guess, to prevent him from coming in the house because they didn't want him home. And that really hit him, really hit hard for him just because his family means a lot to him. So from there, they kind of backtrack and talk about the whole spiraling out of control from last year. So we said that his knee went out on him at WrestleMania 35. I thought it was like later on in the month, and maybe that's what happened. Maybe he initially hurt it at WrestleMania. He was only involved in the fucking Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but imagine getting hurt in the Memorial Battle Royal of all things and not like a marquee match on the show. And I thought it was later on just because he and Matt did win the SmackDown Tag Team titles on the Tuesday after WrestleMania on SmackDown from the Usos. So maybe that was always the original plan. I wish they would have done that at WrestleMania and not on the fucking SmackDown after Mania, but whatever. They tend to do that type of stuff from time to time, like save the bigger moments for these shows after Mania as opposed to Mania itself, which is a bit odd. So maybe he was already hurt and then he exaggerated the injury at a house show. Like he didn't wrestle another match after winning the tag team titles. He and Matt had to vacate the championships when it became known by late April, early May, that he couldn't compete anymore. So they had to vacate the championships, got attacked by Lars Sullivan, and that was it. So his initial plan was to go back after 6 months. I think that was the original timetable, 6 to 9 months. That 6 kind of got flipped upside down into a 9 because his recovery wasn't really going well, and he was terrified that his knee wasn't good enough. So to kind of cope with that, he drank a ton of alcohol and just to black out, just to pass out. And he recalls one time that he passed out on his front porch. And I think he has 2 daughters. One of his daughters, Nira, I believe, which I never really realized. I forgot what his daughter's name was until I saw it on the Chronicle. But obviously his middle name is Nero. So clearly that's turn the O into an A. That's the girl version of Nero. But anyway, his daughter came out, put a pillow under his head, said, hey, Daddy, I'm your best friend, even though you're still drinking or something. Like, so obviously she's old enough to know that what he's doing obviously is a normal behavior and that he needed help. And that was a really, no pun intended, a wake-up moment for him, waking up on that porch that morning, his body all sore from, sleep on the fucking porch, realizing that, holy shit, like my daughter obviously knows what's going on. She's aware enough to realize that what I'm doing, the mistakes I'm making right now are not normal. He recalls his mother actually dying from a brain tumor when he was 9, 10 years old. I knew his mother had passed away a long time ago just because Matt and Jeff have mentioned that in previous documentaries, but I don't know if I ever knew what she had passed away from. I just know that she died when they were very young. But now we know it was a brain tumor. And the reason he brings that up is because his daughter, I'm a fucking idiot, he said it here, his daughter now is 9 to 10 years old. So if he was to die in like a car accident or just over drinking or whatever, it would be around the same age that he was when his mother died when he was a kid. He doesn't want to allow that to happen again. Of course, his mother didn't die of drinking or anything. That was a pure unfortunate incident with the brain tumor. But he doesn't want to allow his own actions to cause his daughter to go without a dad for the rest of her life. But he even says mistakes are a part of my life. And he talks about how he feels he needs to end his career in WWE, which is where it all started for him. And he wants to be the best human being that he can be. We see him spending some time with his daughters, which is cool. Some great footage there. He talks about being caught 3 times, actually saved his life in terms of like drinking on the road or drinking wherever. Like I know there was an incident, I think last year, where he was drinking while impaired. And Rebby Hardy really let him fucking have it. I can only imagine the text and the calls that Jeff got from her, not on social media, but she really went off on him on social media. I think after his wife had posted something about like, oh, we're glad he's okay. And then Rebby's like, I drive these same motherfucking streets with my kids. What if he hit me when I was coming home, you know? So thankfully, again, he talks about how getting caught really saved his life, and he doesn't want to allow that to happen again. So from there, he talks about how painting is really important to him. He picks up some paint from the store to do this huge mural on the side of like a barn or something near where he lives. And he talked about how after his mom passed away, he found out that his mom liked to paint too. So it's probably where he got it from. But he mentions how painting really helps him emotionally and helps him make him feel better, and really painting with a purpose makes him feel a lot better than he was previously. So his whole plan with this painting thing is to paint 12s on a clock on the side of the barn, house, whatever the hell this thing is, because he envisioned, that's all he envisioned. That's all he wrote about, that's all he drew when he was in jail for so long. Not for so long, but like the time that he did, when he did go to jail back in 2009, I think, that was when he was initially arrested. I don't know if he did the time then, or if he did the time later on in 2011, I don't remember. But whenever he went to jail, I don't think it was for more than like 72 hours. But still, like, you're sitting in a cell for 3 days. That fucking adds up. I've never been to prison myself, but I can only imagine. And he was bored out of his mind. He had pen, he had paper, so he drew 12s on a clock all the time. No pun intended. So that's his whole plan for this new painting on the side of this building, house, barn, or whatever. And he says that he feels normal now that he went to rehab for the first time. I never really knew that, but I guess after all the issues that he went through in TNA, and, you know, they did a lot to help him out. They could have very easily fired him, and they probably should have after the embarrassment that was the main event of that 2011 Victory Road pay-per-view. But they kept him on payroll. They kept him on board for a number of years after that. He didn't leave until 2017. He was there for another 6 fucking years after that fuck-up at Victory Road. And they helped him a lot. I don't think he had any issues after that, at least in TNA. And of course, being on the road more often and stuff like that in WWE is not going to help. But it's not like TNA. I mean, yeah, they brought in people with a lot of issues, like Jeff, like Kurt Angle, and people like that at various points. But they did a lot to help him as well. But I didn't know that he actually never went to rehab at that point. That's what he made it sound like here, which I did not know. So then the producer asks him, why do you continue to wrestle? Why do you continue to put your body through so much pain and abuse and stuff like that as you get older? Why do you continue to do it? And he says that he's always seen wrestling as a form of expression, and it really allows him to kind of let that rage out when he's in the ring that he's been building up for a while now, and really just kind of go out there and just let it all out. And he said that he wants to wrestle every match like it's his last. And he said there's no room for error in my life right now. This is it, because if I come up short, then my run is over. This is basically my last chance. This is my last chance in the company, he says. But he also loves the idea of coming up with ideas for pro wrestling. For example, he specifically mentions like the TLC match from WrestleMania 17, which is an amazing match. I got to watch it back a couple of months ago. But he mentions how, you know, coming up with ideas and getting that adrenaline rush and the big spots and stuff like that, and working with other performers to come up with these grand ideas, and that superhuman vibe, he says, is what he really specifically loves about professional wrestling. And the producer said, can you do what you used to do? Does that bother you? And he mentions, yeah, I can't do most of what I used to do in the ring, but I've got enough weapons to get by for the next couple of years. He calls Sheamus the real deal, and I think this was from the day of Backlash, backstage before. They had actually a pretty good match. The feud is, for me anyway, jumped the shark in terms of like, oh, you're an alcoholic. Like, okay, dude, we get it. Time to move on to the next thing. I understand what they're going for, and I'm just not a big fan of it at this point. But, yeah, I've enjoyed the matches. I thought the match in the Intercontinental Championship Tournament was good. The rematch of Backlash was very good. Unfortunately, their upcoming match at Extreme Rules is a fucking cinematic match, which I've actually enjoyed for the most part, but with guys like this, they don't need to have a cinematic match. I guess it's better than doing like a no DQ match or some shit, but can't you bring the bar fight to the ring? Maybe that's what this will be, but I'm assuming it takes place in a bar. But anyway. Where was I in my notes here? So yeah, they relived that Backlash match. He said that it was really hard for him to watch that match back because he said Sheamus absolutely destroyed him. But he gets backstage. Bruce Pritchard congratulates him. A lot of swears here they have to bleep out, which was kind of funny. But Bruce Pritchard, who's on the headset, congratulates Jeff. Vince McMahon, who's on the headset, congratulates Jeff. Devon congratulates Jeff backstage. And he's like, Devon jokes about not, getting back in the ring, and Jeff's like, oh, let's recreate that spot from WrestleMania 17 or blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, no, I'm retired. I'm a producer now. I'm producing you. I'm done. But he even says, I'm not going to be doing this forever, naturally. Like, his body can only hold on for so long, but it's going to take him a while to get his endurance back. And you could tell that he was happy with his performance the night against Sheamus, and it was a very good match. They got a ton of time, made the most of it. It was the right outcome. Which is why I would want to see a rubber match in the ring, which is unfortunate why they're doing the whole bar fight cinematic shit, but whatever. So he talks about how originally he thought he was coming back in front of a huge crowd. Because Jeff is a performer more than most, and all pro wrestlers do this, but Jeff specifically feeds off the audience. And the timing could not have been worse for this guy, because he's gone for 8 or 9 months. He was on backstage and hinted at coming back, and literally like a week and a half later, they announced on SmackDown, oh, he's coming back to SmackDown like next week. The first SmackDown of the PC, Performance Center pandemic era, is the show that Jeff Hardy came back on in front of no people, and that show sucked. I mean, actually, in retrospect, they made the most of it. I remember Triple H being on commentary. His match with Corbin was like 2 minutes. It was a complete fucking waste. So, yeah, no, that's just what I remember from the show. But what a shame. I mean, this guy was supposed to get this big pop and, like, see him come back and have this grand return. And then it's in front of literally no people, not even recruits, not even NXT superstars, people from the PC. There was no one there that night except for the commentators and the fucking cameramen. That was it. So it was a real blow for him. So it's been harder to kind of get back into the swing of things, knowing there's not actual fans there. But again, he's making the most of it. He does say it's important I can't screw up, because this is my last chance. As I said earlier, he really sees this as his last chance in wrestling, WWE, whatever. So he's going to try to make the most of it to the best of his ability and not fuck up. He then kind of transitions into music, talking about how he's been heavily involved in music since 2010. And I think he had his own band before that, if I'm not mistaken. But he's been doing a lot of music since, he started in TNA back a decade ago. And, all of his theme songs, I think, in TNA were recorded by Jeff himself. Modest, Resurrected, Another Me, Time and Fate. I remember all the songs. They were all great songs. I think even Matt Hardy's theme song, this theme song they used, Reptilian or something, that they used while they were teaming in TNA, was also a Jeff Hardy creation. And honestly, they're all pretty good songs. He's shown recording here a song called Vaccine, which, of course, is inspired by COVID-19 during the fucking pandemic. He heard some phrase, I don't know where he said he heard it from, or maybe I just forgot, but he said he heard this phrase, blood is in these deadly waters. And he made a complete song out of it. That was the whole chorus of the song is, blood is in these deadly waters. And he talks about how the song is about death and whatever, and, it should be coming out, I think, next year on an untitled album, so keep an eye out, or ear out for that, rather. And we also actually see a really fun fact here. We see him talking to Dale Oliver. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because, unless I'm mistaken here, that's the same guy that's been composing, or did compose, the TNA entrance music for a long time. I don't know if he still does. I don't know who does the entrance music now over there. I think he still does, if I'm not mistaken. But, he did all the TNA theme songs. Even AJ Styles, I believe. And again, unless I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure that's where he met Dale. And Dale's been doing all the TNA theme songs for a long time. And that includes a lot of different songs. And Dale worked on a lot of great themes. There's a lot of underappreciated TNA themes, specifically that Get Ready to Fly AJ Styles one. But it was cool to see Dale. I've actually never seen his face before, so it was cool to see him in the flesh. And I don't think they acknowledged him, unless I missed something, as the TNA composer, the TNA entrance music artist, whatever. But I thought that was cool to see him here. He then mentions that his court case is coming up that I think was supposed to happen the Monday or Tuesday after WrestleMania. But of course, that was set long before the pandemic happened. COVID-19 struck. It was moved. It was delayed, whatever. So I think it's coming up on July 16th, he said, which would be Thursday. He said he doesn't know what to expect, but, he's anxious, he's nervous, and hopefully he can just kind of get out of the way, face the music, and do his thing and just get it over with. But he wants to go down with a healthy run in the ring. And he said, I want to be like it was before I started drinking. And he actually even says, not word for word says, I'm glad we're doing this storyline, but he does say, I'm glad we're doing this because it allows me to face the music. So in his own words, Jeff just said, I'm glad in so many words, I'm glad we're doing this storyline with Sheamus and the whole recovery thing. And again, for me, it kind of feels like a jump the shark. It's just not great TV. The funny thing is that this takes place from May 29th through this past Friday. No mention of that dumb fucking urine segment from a month ago on SmackDown. None. They mention everything else, the Miz TV thing they show, footage of. They show the Backlash match and some other segments with Sheamus. But they didn't show the urine one, and for good reason, because it was fucking terrible. But I would love to have gotten his thoughts on that. And I guess it's so soon after, it's probably too soon for him to shit on it, but it was pretty bad. It was just, for me, it was just completely pointless. Like, I didn't hate it as much as other people, but it was just really, really pointless. And it was pretty dumb, too. But anyway, so yeah, he said he's fine doing the storyline. I mean, again, he's not going to say, I'm not comfortable doing it on a fucking network special. But I'm assuming they have his blessing to do it. Does that make it okay? I don't know. For me, I don't think so. If he's okay with it, does that mean we're supposed to be okay with it? Maybe, but what about other recovering addicts and alcoholics and stuff like that? How do they feel about it? I would love to know. But anyway, so he talks about he says it's like looking fear in the eyes when it comes to this storyline and just kind of addressing the issues that he's had and moving on. And again, if they did it for a month as they did going into Money in the Bank or Backlash, again, I get it. But they've been doing it nonstop now for 2 months to the point where it's just not entertaining anymore. So why should I care? But he wants to go out as, great as he possibly can, as happy and as healthy as he possibly can be. He wrote a song about recovery before he actually needed to go into recovery. I think that's what he said. He said that he wrote a song about recovery, and 12 is his favorite number, and 12, obviously the 12 steps of recovery and whatever. And I guess he wrote the song about recovery well before he actually had any of these issues. And he feels that he's on this earth for a reason. He thinks the end will write itself. And that he's here for a reason. There's a plan for him. Not creative direction like wrestling-wise, but he's talking like whether it be because of God or his mother, whatever. He's here for a reason, which was cool to hear him say. But he closes off with a long quote, and I'll only read the beginning of it here because I didn't write down the rest. But he said, art isn't perfect, nothing's perfect, I'm not perfect. However, it is these imperfections that make this painting unique. And then he goes off and elaborates and discusses that as we close out the episode. But I thought it was a very good episode, a very real episode of Chronicle. And the episodes are always great. They always do a very good job of capturing these moments and stuff like that behind the scenes. I think the best ones I've seen so far, again, purely my opinion, that I can remember. The Shayna one was good. They've done some other really good ones. The John Morrison one I thought was cool because he had just come back, although it wasn't really all that newsworthy. I thought this one was very good because it addressed real issues, and not everyone may enjoy it, but I thought for what it was very good. I'm a big Jeff Hardy fan, so I'm probably biased. The Sasha Banks one they did about a year ago was great because, again, it addressed a lot of mental health issues that she deals with and leaving WWE for as long as she did, kind of addressing that after a long time, which I thought was cool. And the Drew McIntyre one from a couple of months ago was also really, really well done. I thought that one was great. Looking at my notes here, they did that one on Shayna, like I mentioned. That one was cool. The Morrison one earlier this year was well done. Again, not all that newsworthy, but it was all right. They did one on Rey Mysterio, Cain Velasquez, which is a joke now in retrospect because the guy's been fired. But it was all right. The Goldberg one I forgot about. I thought that was cool. The Sasha Banks one I mentioned. The Rollins one, I don't remember a lot about that one, but I'm looking at my notes here, and it looked like it was a pretty good one. The Ricochet one was kind of short and more of an in-ring thing than it was like a personal thing. The Ali one was well done. The 2 Roman Reigns ones, they did a lot of them. I'm looking at my notes right now. The Charlotte Flair one was good. Paige was, I thought that one was actually very personal too. I forgot about that one. That was from about a year and a half ago. They did one of Becky Lynch. They did one of Dean Ambrose. I didn't do reviews for the Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura ones from 2 years ago, but I'll probably go back and do them again because they were also very good. But check out this Chronicle right now on the WWE Network on Jeff Hardy. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Hit that little bell notification button as well to be notified every time a new video goes up, including tomorrow, which is Monday. My schedule is way off here. But tomorrow should be the latest installment of the MCU Rewatch Review Series. And tomorrow we're breaking down Chris and our special guest Nick Torres, Avengers Age of Ultron. So stay tuned for that here on the channel tomorrow. And that's about it. So if there's any new content going up in the network next week, which I'm sure there will be, because next week is Extreme Rules weekend. And usually they save the Chronicle stuff for the pay-per-view weekend. So I'm kind of surprised they put it out this weekend, especially after they already did the break it down on Sheamus on Friday. Actually on his rival, which it didn't really dawn on me until now, which is funny. But more stuff will probably go up next week. And I heard there's another 24 in the works? Question mark? I forgot who it was on, but I think McIntyre maybe? I think they're working on it. I don't know if it's going to be ready for next weekend, but just something to keep an eye out for. Anyway, guys, be sure to check out all my other Chronicle reviews in the description box down below. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.